Yo, what's going on, Arkansas Razorback fans? Welcome to Postgame. It's technically Postgame number 2, but it's for us here at Hogville, but that's game number 3. Arkansas gets the win. A little bit lower scoring game than we're used to, but Arkansas nonetheless finds a way to victory. Final score of 75-54. Kevin McPherson alongside me to discuss what he saw. So we'll just start off, Kevin. Well, let me preference this question this way. I'm noticing a lot more press, a lot of full court press defense by Arkansas. Are you seeing the same thing? And do you think that's something we'll see in regular season, maybe a little bit from Musselman?
Well, you want to work on things. Arkansas hasn't really been a pressing team under Musselman for the most part. So, I don't think it's a bad idea if this was a younger team they face today. Maybe try to get them rattled, get the game up tempo. Really, Arkansas did control pace. It was a slower pace today. Yeah. Although they had a big 16-0 run in that third quarter. I thought that's where we saw Arkansas's best in that stretch. Brazil had a tip in. All of his field goals had Trevon Brazil, the 6'10" transfer from Missouri. All of his field goals, all 4 were putbacks today. But in that 16-0 run, he gets a tip in. Arkansas had 3 dunks, Council back-to-back by Barry Dunning, who's – I know everybody's pleased with this freshman because he's not one of the 5 stars everybody was talking about. But you also had a couple of run-outs in transition, Devo Davis in that run. So Arkansas staple so far when you look on offense has just been playing above the rim, attacking, whether it's open court transition or in the half court. They've had a lot of turnovers. They've committed some silly fouls. Yeah. Their defense has been spotty. Another game where the 3-point shooting, 3 of 11. Nick Smith hits 2. Anthony Black started the game hitting a corner 3. You thought this might be their day. Arkansas wasn't good at the foul line, 8 of 14. Yeah. But you know what, Ty? You get a win. It's 21-point win. And Arkansas did have that big run. Nick Smith Jr. also hits a triple at the end of the third quarter to beat the buzzer after Dunning got a steal. And, there are positives here, but I think the biggest takeaway so far when I just went through a lot of those negatives, but after 3 games, Arkansas is averaging 10 dunks a game. And when they're not dunking, they're getting a bunch of layups because they continue to stay with the idea that they're going to use that length, size, and athleticism to just attack the paint. They had several missed layups at the end of the second quarter. Yeah. When they built a 16-point lead. It could have been bigger and then ended up only leading by 11.5. The other team had a 5-0 run in that stretch where Arkansas, I think, went 1 of 4 at the foul line and missed 3 or 4 chippies. Right and should have dunked 2 or 3 of those instead of, missing the layup. But this is the if there's an identity of this team in Europe, it's attack the basket, attack the basket, attack the basket, and then everything else is playing D, and so on. But ABC 1, 2, 3, it's get to the rack.
Yeah, and this game too, a lot of stuff happening down low in the paint. It got chippy. Kamani Johnson got chippy there, especially in the second half. I thought that was interesting to see, but also we kind of saw Kamani likes to get physical down low, and going back to Dunning for a second, I think he's starting to become the glue guy. I'm seeing that. Are you seeing that as well from him?
Well, maybe. It's so early. He's doing glue guy things. He got some steals, those dunks, just a lot of hustle plays with him. Ricky Council, 9 points today. He led Arkansas with a plus 27 in the box score. So he's doing things out there. Council has been averaging double figures in scoring, but second leading rebounder behind Kamani coming in at 7.5 a game. And today, the 9 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal. But I look at that box score, plus minus a plus 27. Anthony Black, plus 21. Nick Smith, plus 16. Kamani Johnson, plus 19. Brazil, plus 13. And Barry, plus 13. So you mentioned something there, glue guys. Those were your top 6 in box score plus minus, those names I just went through. And, when you look at Dunning, again, everybody's talking about those 3 freshmen that came in with those 5-star, rankings. But Dunning through 3 games now, and I mean, he finished with, he had 7 points, 3 of 3 from the field, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and a couple of blocks. So when you're inconsistent on defense, the other team's hanging around, and some of that's your fouling, some of it's your turnovers. When you got a guy that can be a fixer, that's part of that glue guy. Three steals and 2 blocks. You nailed it.
Saul Walsh also looked pretty good defensively most of the time, but I think that might be kind of his identity. He might be more of a defensive guy than an offensive guy. I don't know. I wanted to ask you, we've talked a little bit about their travel. How much of their travel arrangements today do you think maybe played a little bit of a factor to them looking a little raw today? Because I know it was a little bit of a journey for them to get to the court, right?
Yeah. Well, I really don't know if I can put anything on that. I'd have to know more details. I know they did kind of get there, I think early today, arrive. So I don't think they spent the night there. Maybe that had something to do with it. They've had a day of rest in between games. These teams are playing a lot of games over there too. And some of them are playing, multiple opponents. So even though Arkansas's playing multiple opponents, each one of these teams is also maybe playing some other college teams. Yeah. And the other thing is, Arkansas jumped out to a 7-0 lead, turned that into an 11-2 advantage. And then again, you started to see the turnovers, poor execution at times, defensive breakdowns, and then the fouls. I can't, in a lot of these violations, it seems like Arkansas, when they take that first step, it's a quick whistle. The other team's doing the same thing, and they let them go. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I guess you have to be from over there to not get that whistle. I'm not trying to be a homer about it. I mean, some of the opponents' first moves were actual traveling violations that weren't called. And I thought Arkansas's were a little sketchy, maybe borderline. Maybe the official had a better view than me, obviously, but seems like. And then some of the foul calls too. I think it's just Arkansas making excuses here. I just don't think they've adjusted well. And I don't know that you can at this point. I mean, this is the 3rd game and we're seeing the same stuff. But I do think the things that I can say, I keep seeing breakdowns on the defensive end. And then you see guys make plays. Nick Smith with 4 steals today. Anthony Black had a block, 3 steals himself. You saw Trevon Brazile and Kamani all over the glass. Brazile had 1 rebound in the last game. Today he had 7, 4 on the offensive glass. And I told you, apparently all of those resulted in a putback, because all 4 of his baskets were putbacks or a tip-in, some combination. And I thought there were times where Arkansas's defense was good when you hold an opponent to 54 points. We said this going back to game 1, 59 points, you're doing something right. But so it wasn't all bad, but I do think there are stretches of the game where mistakes and mental mistakes are at play when you see a team hang around. Again, Arkansas started great, had a nice run there in the 3rd quarter. Not so good in the 2nd quarter, finishing it. Not a great 4th quarter. A lot to learn from in game 3.
I think you hit it right there. A lot to learn from. And that's kind of the point of this whole thing in Europe. I mean, we had people kind of complaining a little bit about them looking whatever. And like we talked about last time, it was either last time or the time before last, I can't recall, but they're trying to learn as much as possible. And this is not a in-game scenario that you would see week to week. Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, Arkansas forced 26 turnovers today, but they committed 20. Arkansas was better in the fouling department. Only 15 today, but still, when the other team is shooting, I can't tell if that's 16 or 18 free throws. Arkansas shot 14. Arkansas has, in the last 3 years, has been elite in college basketball, getting to the free throw line and making free throws, and have a big cushion there relative to its competition. So far in Europe, it's been really the reverse. Arkansas's been behind on attempts and makes in some cases. Arkansas was only 8 of 14 today at the foul line. That's not good efficiency. It's not good volume. Again, I keep blaming the refs for some of that, but if you're not going to shoot the 3 ball, which we saw last year, and if you're not going to, being a situation where you're converting at the free throw line and your opponent's getting as many as you and maybe knocking down more than you, now you're in a bit of a fight. I think, again, where Arkansas has separated itself is just continue to stick with it, attack the basket, play above the rim when they can, and just get in close range, because they really haven't been effective from three. And we know that they haven't been lights out in the mid range either. I mean, you see a few floaters in the paint, and maybe, Jordan Walsh, you mentioned him, he had a fadeaway 17-footer. He'll have one or two wow plays on offense that make you see the potential there. Mm-hmm. And we saw that again today.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. That was nice. I'd like to see more of that. But like you said, maybe that's what his game is, unless it evolves as the year goes on, which it could. We've got some folks mentioning Anthony Black. Ash CFB says, I knew Anthony Black was athletic, but his athleticism has surprised me, he says. And you and I have talked a little bit about him, but what did you see out of him today? I thought he did a couple things that were pretty impressive, but what did you see out of him playing at that one spot?
Well, he was credited with no assists today, and sometimes, you're as a floor leader and as the lead guard, you're trying to get, you're just trying to keep the flow of the offense. I thought Arkansas sputtered at times, but I don't blame that on Black as much. When you're turning it over, I mean, he didn't have any. No. So when other guys are picking up that pivot foot, there's disruption, stepping out of bounds. I mean, whatever it is, it's causing these turnover problems for Arkansas. It's multiple things, but you can't lay it at the feet of Black. 0 turnovers a day, no assists credited to him, but he had, 3 rebounds, 3 steals. He had the 3 big dunks early. Got off to a great start. Yep. Made his first 4 shots, missed his last 3 through the rest of the game. But, he's just a guy, like I said, the box score plus minus of 21, plus 21. And he led Arkansas. Now, he was second on the team in minutes behind Devo today at 25 minutes. Devo played 26. But AB led Arkansas in minutes played the game before, 29. So he's going to be on the court. I don't know, right now we're seeing players come in and go. We know Musselman's going to tighten that up. But at the end of the game, when you look at the box score and you see the minutes played, the box plus minus, and some of the things that a guy like Anthony Black does, you understand why he's so valuable and why he's on the floor a lot.
Yeah. Shout out to all you guys that are here live. Scott Marshall says, love the live, guys. We're glad you're here, Scott. And to everybody else, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. Go check out hogville.net. Kevin McPherson's got you covered. All the details you need about what you've witnessed so far in Europe, Kevin's got you covered. Along with, we had Sam Pittman talk about the scrimmage today. That is also over on hogville.net. And I'm trying to, Dudley Dawson and I are supposed to get together today, and I'm going to do an interview with him. So looking forward to that. But Kevin, as far as basketball's got you covered. There's nobody else better in the business. Nick Smith Jr. also has turned the ball over a lot. And this is coming from Ash again. Yeah. I feel like he will improve at that. Do you have any reason why this is happening?
Yes, because he initiates a lot of the offense looking to make a play for himself or others. And right now there's a bit of a learning curve with new players. I see some of these turnovers. He thinks the guy's going to be in a certain spot and he just misses him on the pass. Or they've whistled the first step travel. I think some of these are incorrect calls, but if you're going to make that play, there was one play where he had a wide open 3 at the top of the key. I wish he would have taken that. Instead, he tried to take that first step. The defender was well off of him and didn't close well. So even though he was getting by him, they blew that whistle. A couple of times in transition, he's gotten ahead of himself, lost control of the ball a little bit. These are things he's going to clean up. Today he strikes for 20 points. The only player in double figures. Arkansas wins by 21. So you need a guy like him. You're going to live with some of those mistakes. You look at that efficiency on offense otherwise. 8 of 14 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. The rest of the team goes 1 of 7 from 3. Made both of his free throws. Had 4 steals. So you start looking at it, and I think he finished with 3 assists as well. And that was second on the team to Devo Davis. We need to talk about Devo here too, because that Jacksonville duo, man, Nick Smith and Devo. Kamani continues to battle. I thought Brazil had probably his best game not points wise, continues to be efficient. I think he's only missed 3 shots in Europe so far, Brazil, averaging double-figure scoring. But just the work around the basket, cleaning it up with rebounds on that offensive end. Love to see that because that's what Kamani's been doing. But so many guys here. But, yeah, the questions about Nick, you live with some of those turnovers because you see he's leading this team in scoring now. He's up to 54 points in 3 games. That's 18 points a game to lead the way.
So you're right. We do need to talk about Devo today, but something else that stood out to me about Anthony Black, going back to him for just a second, we saw Jalen Graham check in kind of late in the game and immediately Anthony Black's trying to feed him. To me, that's a great sign from your point guard trying to get someone like that involved.
Yeah.
The point guard spot, it seems like he's got that locked down at the moment. I know it's still early. I know it's August, but have you seen much progression from Black from game 1 or even going back to the time that what exposure you've had to Razorback basketball?
Well,
have you seen a progression from him?
Well, this is how he's always played. So from that standpoint, no. He looks to set guys up. He has a mature understanding of offense. He'll make some mistakes. Today, no turnovers, though. But the big thing with him is he's looking for guys to get them the ball in places where they can excel. You mentioned Jalen Graham. He's a 15-foot-in player. He's got a few little moves when he posts up. Now, he didn't convert, but that's the place you want to find him is posting up if you're going to try to get everybody involved, which is what a good floor leader does. Now, sometimes you don't go to a guy just because he's in his best spot. He may not be the best option, and Anthony Black understands that. They're calling plays out there. Musselman wants execution. Black's going to be a guy that's like a coach on the floor. And then, when the ball's moving, he may create something that's not within the framework of the play because something's opened up or he's opening it up because he sees an opportunity. And so on many levels, this guy's a very mature point guard. And, his size, you said some people are surprised by his athleticism. I'm not. If you look at most of his finishes, they're well above the rim. He's got power behind his dunks. He's got long strides. And we'll see in transition, one thing we're going to start seeing with him, when there's defenders getting back, he is really intelligent on weaving through traffic and getting to the rim or passing to somebody else and setting them up for an easy look. We're just scratching the surface with Anthony Black on what we're going to see. But I do think, again, you see a game like this, it's an anomaly, 0 assists. We probably won't see that again. And the stat guys might have missed something there. But I think, when you look again at the minutes he gets, it says everything about him really. Unless he takes a downturn, he's Arkansas's lead guard. Nick Smith's going to play a lot with the ball in his hand. When Nick's in the game and AB's not, you'll see a lot of Nick on the ball. So he'll have some spot duty there, as will Devo at times. But it starts at the 1 with AB.
Again, thank you guys so much for joining. We are waiting to hear from Eric Musselman. Kevin will be on the Zoom call with that when it takes place. So we're going to try and keep this going for just a little bit more. Remember to subscribe to Hogville Net. Support the channel. We just opened up our community tab. Just opened up today. You have to hit a certain threshold on YouTube to open that up, and we got it today. So now we have the community tab that's open. You can check that out on YouTube. You can see that just under our Hogville Net YouTube, and you go to community and it's there. We have it finally. So more ways to connect with the fans. Let's go into it. That about Devo. I mean, he's pretty good today. I liked what I saw from him. I like the effort, and there were several guys who gave so much effort. Kamani, it seems like we've been saying that for a while now about Kamani, but Devo was certainly at times kind of the guy today. What did you see?
Yeah, he hustles. He plays hard. He's a great example for what Musselman wants in terms of effort and just going hard all the time. And then he makes plays. We know he can turn a 50-50 ball question mark into a winning play for Arkansas because he'll dive on the floor, he'll get there first, and then he'll turn up court and try to find someone in stride or take it all the way himself and finish. And I thought Devo did some good things today. We look at his stat line. He didn't shoot the ball well, 3 of 9, for his 6 points, but he had 3 rebounds, led the team with 5 assists. And he also had 3 steals. Arkansas, by the way, 18 steals as part of forcing those 26 turnovers. And they also had 7 blocked shots. And so when you start looking at those cleanup things on defense, it's part of the reason why the opponent only scored 54 points. But a lot of those plays they made were in recovery. They got beat. They had blown some assignments. And that's why I'm beating them up a little bit on defense, because some of that was just recovery stuff. But look, that's an advantage of having all that athleticism, length, and size we keep talking about. It's because you can correct on the back end. You can recover and look good. And some of these guys, and we saw some of that with Devo, but I do think just when I watch him embody what Musselman expects, he's not perfect, but when he embodies what Musselman expects from his players, and I think that will eventually have carryover to guys as they learn what's expected and demanded.
Yeah, and it's just going to come naturally. We have J-Dub says in chat, Nick Smith Jr. should probably spend more time with assistant coaches learning the third and fourth set of possible defenses.
Say that again. I'm sorry, Ty.
This is from the comment section. Nick Smith Jr. should probably spend more time with assistant coaches learning the third and fourth set of possible defenses.
So I don't know if he's talking about when Arkansas is playing defense or understanding what the options are when the other team's on defense and he's on offense. But all the players are still learning. This is a pro organization in terms of terminology, the countless plays that Musselman has, the different sets he has just for out of bounds, defense, offense, various scenarios, end of clock, all kinds of things going on, multiple screens happening at once, moving off the ball. All of them are a work in progress. You see some disconnect because of that. Not only do you have a lot of youth, but you also have, even with the transfers, you still have 11 newcomers. These are guys that haven't played together. There's no doubt that Nick Smith Jr.'s got learning curve here. Everyone does. The one thing you like about Nick, when things start to look chaotic and like it's blowing up, he can fix a bad play and go get offense. He's a go-to guy, and nobody else has really shown that yet. Nobody. He has. And Arkansas hasn't had a lot of, they haven't had a lot of adversity from start to finish. They've had some bad stretches and some adversarial stretches in the last game and in parts of this game. But overall, they've won every game by double digits. The last 2 games have been a little closer. But at the same time, when there have been some rough spots, there have been multiple guys step up, not just Nick. So I don't want to say it that way. But in terms of breaking something off, when the world's collapsing on offense, he can go get a bucket. And you've got to have it. You want a guy like that. That was when you look last year at Note, he was that guy. This year, that'll be Nick Smith. And so, Note always struggled with turnovers and decision-making. I think right now, Nick has still got a lot of learning curve as a first-year player, so that's where the comparison's in. Note was a fifth-year player, making his, when you count the red shirt last year, you hope Nick is on a fast track to kind of picking some things up and minimizing those turnovers.
What did you think of we've had some people comment about Pinion. I know he's not getting a ton of playing time, but he did at times kind of look like he was flying around the court on defense just with his hands up, but he's trying to find somebody to guard. What have you thought of his play lately?
Not enough, too much of a sample size to really judge it, but there was a really nice defensive play there where he just really got into the offensive player and harassed him, and it led to a shot clock violation.
Yeah.
The offensive player was fumbling around just trying to get regain possession, and Pinion was all in his line of vision and just was all over him. And that's what again, you have to make the most of your opportunities. It's not necessarily going to mean that you're carving out a role in the rotation. We see Barry Dunning really embracing his opportunities, but he kind of came into this trip, I think, in Musselman's favor with some of these opportunities that maybe exceed what we're seeing for Darian Ford and Joseph Pinion right now. And then he's made the most of it, so he gets more minutes. And again, I go back to this stat sheet. Dunning only played 12 minutes, and when he was on the court, Arkansas was plus 13 in the box score. He had an impact. He didn't play as many minutes today as he did in the previous game when he was in the top 8 rotation. But when you look at minutes, he made the most of them.
You think that changes game 4? You think we're going to see some more minutes, or?
I think everything's changing while they're on this tour. This will be nothing like what we see in the regular season. Now, there'll be some games they play at home in November, maybe in December, where you'll see the opportunity for a lot of guys to get in. He may do something like this again. But for the most part, and when it really matters, you're not going to see this in and out with guys shuffling in and out. Just not how Musman does things.
Yeah.
Now, if they're all kicking the ball around, you might see it. That's a big problem, though. If that happens, they may be in trouble.
I tell you, there are some very uncharacteristic things happening in Europe for Arkansas that we haven't seen under Musselman. And like you said, it's the combination of new guys. It's the combination of freshmen and the transfers. Hell, I think the ball's different. The courts are different. The rims apparently aren't really hanging on that well. We saw Arkansas break that rim, or I don't know what happened, but it looked like Brazil maybe bent the rim and they couldn't get it corrected. I don't think they fixed that, Kevin. I think it stayed that way from the end of the first all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, well, the court was nicer though, wasn't it, than the last game?
A lot less lines.
Oh man, they looked like normal basketball court lines. It was but I've talked about some of the whistles and some of the disparities and stuff. It's at the end of the day, those are excuses. I think in some ways there's some validity in there when you look at your margins. If they'd maybe been a little bit, because there's no guarantee that a game should be called evenly in terms of this team had the same amount of fouls as this team, same amount of no. But you can tell when it just seems like there's an unbalance. And people could say, well, that's a homer bias, but I don't think so because it's well documented. Teams from the United States struggle with the traveling violations and some of the other adjustments, especially the way the fouls are called. So, and you're playing away from home. You're not only playing international rules, you're not playing in your backyard, you're playing in someone else's. So, I think you have to add some of that into the mix when you look at some of these struggles. Eric Musselman's not going to fully see it that way, though. I'm sure he's once again not pleased about a few things.
I'm sure you're going to hear about some of those things here in just a little bit. I posted in the comment section for you guys the actual forum that leads you straight to Kevin McPherson's most recent post. Nick Smith Jr. with 20 points as Arkansas tops Orange 1 Bassano. I think I'm pronouncing that right. 75-54 in Italy today. So that is available for you guys. If you want to check that out, go click on it and go read what Kevin has to say there. Plenty to say here. You're getting a little bit extra here, but you're getting just as much, if not more, if you click that article and make sure you create an account. It's free, simple, bing, bang, boom. I think we're kind of, is there anything else that we're missing here, Kevin? Is there something else you want to talk about? Is something I'm missing? Maybe we could bring up that's on your mind about this game?
Well, their next opponent on Monday, that game tips at noon. Central Time. The Back and Bears, this may be the toughest opponent Arkansas's faced. We'll see. It should be. But I still think because it's August, there's a lot to work through. There are some guys right now that I think are struggling, but that's to be expected somewhat. And we saw Arkansas come in with national top 15 ranking last year, entered the season, won their first 8 or 9 games, moved up in the top 10. Yeah. And along the way in those wins, they never looked cohesive. They never looked connected. And then that started to play out with those losses. That blowout loss to OU, losing in North Little Rock to Hofstra when they got bayed with the double-double. And then, starting off, losing their first 3 in SEC play. So we got to remember these things. And that team never looked like a top 15, 10 team at that time. Then they got kicked out of the rankings after all those losses. And then they started playing like that. It took them forever to get back in the rankings. And then when they got in, they didn't move up enough, I didn't think. So I'm making the point with the rankings to say sometimes we expect things based on, well, they got all these recruits. They got 3 5-stars. Or they're ranked. They're going to be top 10. And then they don't look like it immediately. And we start to go, wait a minute. Big problems. Yeah, 11 newcomers, a lot of freshmen. It's a whole new thing. And no matter how good Musselman is, it doesn't happen overnight. they weren't going to come over on this European trip and just start looking like world beaters and looking like a Final Four team. But the ingredients are there for a Final Four run later. That's in March. We're so far away. And right now, they're 3-0. You take that, and whatever the mistakes are that are rolled into that, some of that ugliness. 3-0 is the prettiest sight there is when you're looking at the record, because believe me, Musselman, I don't know if he'd leave the team there or stay himself if they dropped one at this point.
Yeah. And going 4-0 will be great. That'll be something they can bring back home. But again, I think Musselman, as you mentioned earlier, we are looking at the negatives that we've seen so far, and those are the things. These guys, let's hope. I think they are. Let's hope they remain coachable and they buy into what Muss is preaching. Because if they do, boy, oh boy, Elite Eight, they could be further than that for a third straight year. They could make Elite Eight and then some. So a lot on the table and a lot within reach with this program, with all the talent, new and old. Talking about Kamani and Devo. So I think that's going to. Oh, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say. You got your returning leaders there. They played, very well. And, I think if we were looking at rotations right now, we're probably really looking at, you mentioned those two, Nick Smith Jr., Anthony Black, Trevon Brazile, Ricky Council, Barry Dunning, I think Jordan Wall. So I think those are your 8. If you were basing it on right now. And, we may see, depending on how tough this next game is, those guys on the court the most, because so far – they've been the best in some combination for Arkansas. And so if we want to talk, if you wanted some rotation talking here, there it was. I wanted to get that out of the way.
There it is. It's coming. I'm surprised that question wasn't asked yet. But I'm sure after the video had released, had you not said that, that would have been one of the first comments. What's the 8 rotation look like? So there you go. Kevin just kind of laid it out there for you. All right. Kevin's going to go talk with Coach Muss. Hopefully Musselman's in a good mood for you, Kevin. And all you guys, remember to please go check out hogville.net, completely free. All kinds of goodies over there for you from Otis Kirk, Kevin McPherson, Dudley Dawson, the biggest names in Razorback media, or Arkansas media, I should say. And, of course, subscribe here at Hogville.net YouTube. All right, we will see you guys again. It's noon. Musselman's graphic was incorrect. Kevin caught that. It's noon, not 12:30. So we will do a post game for that. Remember, no pregame, but we will have a post game for that show. So we will see you guys then. Kevin, thanks a lot for joining me, man.
Good to be with you as always, Ty. I always have fun on this.
Absolutely, same here. All right, Woo Pig, and we'll see you guys on the 15th on Monday. Go Hogs.